All right, let's see how you did on this Q6.9 practice test. Here is how your drawings should look. Double check that you have 6 unshared electrons or 3 unshared pairs and a single bond here. Here you should have all single bonds, no unshared pairs, no dots. Here you should have a carbon in the middle with a single bond H, and a double bond O with 4 dots or 2 unshared pairs. Here is the same molecule drawn just a different way, just to show you that if your O is going to a different direction, that's not a problem, but just make sure you have the right bonds and unshared pairs. If you got them all right, you can pause or stop here. If you didn't, I'm going to do them each one at a time now. So the steps you should know are these. I'm going to simplify this a little bit. So I do like to write the valence electrons and the bonds above and below. So this is kind of like a scratch paper kind of a step. Then the next steps are all about bonds. So we take care of the bonds first, and then finally we do the unshared pairs. Remember, bonds are shared, and the unshared pairs are sometimes called lone pairs, and they're the dots. So these are shared pairs. All right, so I'm going to simplify to kind of like 2 steps. Do the bonds and then do the unshared pairs. So here's a blank one. We'll do it again. First thing I want you to do when you come to the test tomorrow is take your plastic covered bond chart that you're given and put in 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 4, 3, 2, 1. These are the valence electrons, and then the bonds are what they need in order to get to 8. Remember, hydrogen is the unique one. It's got 1 valence electron, but it still only wants 1 bond, so that's why it's in that group. All right, so when I see HBr, capital H, that means 1 hydrogen, capital Br. Hydrogen has 1 valence electron and 1 bond. Remember, that's valence electrons on the top, bonds below. Bromine is 7 valence electrons and 1 bond. So since there's just 2 atoms, it's pretty easy, single bond. Now remember, my first step was the scratch paper stuff. Then my next really big step is the bonds, take care of those, and then the unshared pairs. So I want to double check that I have the right bonds. H should only have 1 bond, yes. Or look here, 1 bond, yes. Br should only have 1 bond, yes. On here, we don't see a Br, but remember that it's in group 17. So Br, Cl, all the atoms in group 17 will look like this. So the next thing is the unshared pair, or the dots. And so when I see this, I know I need 6 dots around my Br. Put them around the outside. Don't put them between, because they're not being shared. Next one, valence electrons and bonds. Carbon has 4 valence electrons, so it wants 4 bonds. Hydrogen, 1, 1. Remember, hydrogen, it'd be good if we could always remember that. Carbon, 4, 4. Hydrogen was 1, 1. So the one that needs the most bonds has to go in the middle. There's 3 carbons here. This number means 3 carbons and 8 hydrogens. So carbon, carbon, carbon. They all have to be in the middle because they need a lot of bonds. Then I'm going to start putting the H's around the outside. Remember our bond patterns? Our carbons are going to look like something like this. So I have a lot of H's here, so I bet it's going to be something like one of these. So I'm going to just start doing single bonds first. H, H, H. That's 3, 4 H's, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now I can see that I have 4 bonds around that carbon, 4 around this one, 4 around this one, and each H has 1. So my bonds are good. Now I check unshared pairs. When the number of valence electrons matches the bond number, then there's no unshared pairs because all of the valence electrons are being shared in the bonds. 1, 2, 3, 4 valence electrons shared in the 4 bonds. So no dots, no unshared. And 1, 1, no unshared. Another way to check, do you ever see dots on any of these? No. But here and here, no. So that one's good. Last one, valence electrons and bonds. 4, 4, 1, 1. Oxygen we haven't seen, so let's look. 6, 2. Which needs the most bonds? Put it in the middle. 4, 1, and 2. Carbon needs the most bonds. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Now some of you might want to put this second hydrogen over here on the end, but if you think about that, or even if I show you, then now oxygen already has its bonds, but carbon does not, so that can't work. You gotta put more with the carbon because it's needier. So now I've used my 2 hydrogens, my carbon, my oxygen. I'm still thinking about bonds. Before I do dots, I'm gonna make sure they have the right number of bonds. So hydrogen's good with 1, 1, but carbon, 1, 2, 3, touching the carbon, it needs 1 more. And oxygen, 1, it needs 1 more. So if both carbon and oxygen need 1 more, I need to put it between them, a double bond. And when I look at my bond chart, I see that one way for carbon to get its 4 bonds is single, single, double, and that's what I have here, single, single, double. Last, always look for unshared pairs. Remember when these match, there's no unshared because they're all being shared in the bonds, 1, 2, 3, 4 bonds. 1 never has any unshared, hydrogen, sorry. And I can see that also on the bond chart. But oxygen has 6 valence electrons and only 2 are being shared in the bonds. So that means there's 4 more that are unshared, and I also always see that on here. So this is really going to help you if you're struggling. You've got to figure out how that works. Thanks for watching. And now, if you want to, there's 2 more versions of this. If you want to do another 1 or 2 to practice, the keys are taped to the trays in the front of the room, so you can go get more. And you can upload a new picture if you want to try to get more points back from that quiz. Thank you.